Welcome to Seeking the Truth Part 4. How did this happen? What has brought mankind to this point today that we go through life thinking it's okay to justify to ourselves, to lie to ourselves, to justify everything that goes on in our world, that it's okay? What has brought us to this point? How on earth did this happen? Stay tuned. I tend to like to research things and find out exactly what it is and why I'm feeling this way. Meaning, I see things in a broad picture and I'm trying to understand how we as mankind got to the point that we're at today. Historically, back to day one, mankind has entertained greed, self-serving, all those things that putting themselves on pedestals. We have this innate need to be better than somebody else. We can see very clearly what somebody else is doing wrong. That has grown over the years to become a very lucrative and financially enticing way to become, lifestyle. So let's take our modern day, where you and I are at, whoever's watching this, where we're sitting today. Look over the last X amount of years in your life and start to really pick it apart. Your belief system right now, how did you come to this point? How did you get to this belief system that you have right now? While growing up, were you just told things randomly? I've found that, and I'm starting to see this now in younger children, when they start having a mind of their own and thinking for themselves, parents, other adults, and there's no malicious intent. Please understand, I am not saying anybody's doing anything wrong. We have been programmed. But when a child starts becoming an independent thinker, they are shot down. They are almost scolded to the point where, no, you have to follow the path this way. Now, granted, if a child's going to follow the path that's going to cause personal harm or emotional harm or something along those lines to another human being, obviously you have to squash it. But when they question a concept, and they question maybe religion or church, it is pounded into them, no, this is the way it is. Church is pounded into people. This is the way it is. They know. They're an authority on Christ and God. Do your research. I'm just summarizing, but do your research on the historical significance of what we have been programmed to become. In this moment now, government, what's going on in our government, what's going on in our country, we see the lies. We see it. Of course, we've seen it for a long time, but we really see it now. How many of you lie to yourselves going, well, this is going to get better? Now, before our country changed hands, it was just as bad with the other person. Okay, fine. But because there's so many lies, we are not going to see the truth if it was presented to us on a silver plaque. We just won't see it. We will disregard it. We will lie to ourselves, justify why that's not true. And that's why I say this is a personal journey. We have to, as individuals, part of humanity, take a good hard look at ourselves and where we got our belief system from and how this happened for us. I hear many times, if you want to change the world, change it. It's just one, right? I understand what that means now. I have to look within myself and change the programming, strip myself of everything I've always believed, and regroup into me. into what God has shown me, what Christ tells me. I don't care what anybody says. This is a truth as can be. And this is one of the only truths that I've received that I will share with you. Christ is our Savior. God created us. He's overseeing everything. That's the bottom line. Whatever our relationship or belief system is, doesn't matter. But we're so busy entertaining the lies. We're so busy going, well, we're going to get to the bottom of that. Well, how are you going to do that? You're going to listen to 100 other people that have your same point of view? It's only perspective. It's only a perspective from mankind. Religions are the same way. We are programmed to believe that we must adhere to a religion because those people in religious power, so-called modern-day prophets, right? Without them, we'll never be saved. Without them, we will never have a relationship with Christ, with God. They are imperfect human beings just like you and I. You go back, let's go back to the Bible. Go back to the prophets, the 12 apostles. They were not perfect. Pretty simple. There was no perfection there, right? So, we gravitated to Jesus, right? We gravitated to Jesus for the answers. We gravitated to God for the answers. But over the millennium, decades, centuries, soon as people started having an awakening, churches changed, government changed, because they have to keep us where they want us. It's subtle, my friends. Very subtle how they work. They have us believing that we need them. Whether it's government, religious leaders, we need them. They have us believing that without them, our life would stink. We would be nowhere. We would crumble. We would die. We would whatever. Suffer. Understand this. Do your research. Look how religions have changed. There's over 4,200 religions now. And growing. 4,200 different religions. Some of them are grouped into Christianity. Now, instead of saying I'm this or that, I'm a Christian. But Christianity is religions of similar nature. But still in all, it's the same thing. It's run by mankind. No one person has a shoe-in with God over another. No one person is chosen by God to lead the masses to Him. When I talk about religions in this manner, I don't mean don't go to church. I don't mean don't believe in your faith. I don't mean any of that. I mean go in to your religious environment and question something. That in your heart, you just don't believe that they're teaching. Question it and see what happens. I grew up in the Catholic religion. I have never experienced more double standards in my life. Do as I say, not as I do. You're going to go to hell. You're not perfect, so you might as well just, stick with us and we'll guide you to hell because you'll never get to heaven. And Catholic Church alone, right? All the priests that were pedophiles, I experienced and witnessed, I experienced nuns and priests doing the wild thing? You know, they had vows, and yet they're pointing a finger at me, right? Or you, or somebody else in their organization, saying that's bad, you shouldn't be doing that, and yet they are, right? And yet they're doing it. Help me to understand that. I grew up that way. To me, it was just my normal. So, growing up, it didn't make sense to me. So then I had to lie to myself and say, well, they must know what's best for me, until I got a little bit older. They must know what's best for me. I must be wrong. I must be wrong. As a kid, I must be wrong. Just because we're kids doesn't mean we're unintelligent. Just because we're children doesn't mean we don't have intellectual thinking. We don't have logic. We don't have something important to share, an important opinion, that our opinions are valid. Our thoughts are valid thoughts that should be nurtured, and if they're misguided, then through the nurturing and entertaining of a child's thought process, help them to understand why something should not go in that direction, why something is, not as it seems. But we don't. We just dictate. No, just don't do that. It's wrong. And I always was like, why is that wrong? I was taught, and it might be because I grew up with all men except for my mother. I was taught that my heart's going to get me in trouble. My ability to care about another human being was wrong. That feeling of empathy was wrong. That feeling to want to help my fellow man, friends, whatever it was wrong. And so I turned it off. And when I turned that off, that led me down a path that I never want to experience again. And I finally understood. It was wrong because they didn't understand it. They didn't, and I do believe part of it's the male world I grew up in. So, having said that, look at what we have been taught. There is no right or wrong. I don't blame my parents for anything. It has been programmed for centuries. It gets fine-tuned as our world changes. What was unacceptable 100 years ago, well, that's all right, now. Well, no, that's not all right. For example, and I'm not bashing anybody that's gay or lesbian, okay? But that's an example. It was unacceptable, period, end of story. In the religions, in communities, unacceptable. Now, they open your arms. Why are they opening their arms, the churches, to the gay and lesbian community? Think about it. There's only one reason. They know it's not of God. They know God doesn't sanction that behavior. It's not for me to say, by the way. I accept whatever comes my way when it comes to people I come across. I have no judgment whatsoever. My belief system's mine. And I don't try to shove it down your throat. But I'm trying to help you understand that as these things become more popular, churches start losing parishioners. What does that mean? They start losing money. So we change the rules. We change our mindset. We say, on one hand, it's morally not right, but on the other hand, you can be a member of the church. It's all about the money. Power. But do they really accept them? As Jesus accepted all of us. Every single person. Gay, lesbian, whore. It didn't matter what you were. Good person, bad person, wife, adulterer. It doesn't matter. He accepted every one of us. And he didn't have his hand out asking for something in return. He just loved. Once churches and government realized that they had a power over people, they were able to monopolize those things that people would accept. They were able to steal from us, manipulate us, and while they have their hand in our pocket, they're at the other hand patting you on the back, you're a good person. Because we're so needy, we need to hear that. Walk the walk that you walk. But I'm going to tell you something. We here, mankind, is at a turning point. And if we don't jump on our own bandwagon, nobody else's, if we don't set ourselves up and start opening and removing things that were never part or meant to be part of who we are, I suggest you look at your belief system. And what lies do you tell yourself to justify what you believe? Then, if you can do that, delve deeper to find out where it came from. Because in order to understand your belief system, you have to understand where you got it from. Again, in order to see the truth, you have to see the lies. In part 5, I'm going to discuss what will it take for you to have the courage to understand and look within and realize that the truths that you seek have been with you all along. Have a blessed day. Until then, take care.